There are secrets out there, guys, performance marketing secrets, and knowing just one or two of them can absolutely light up your funnels. Let's go. This is the Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris McDonagh. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO. I am here with an amazing guest today that you guys are going to love to listen to. You should probably stop what you're doing and bookmark this episode. But I feel excited and grateful to be speaking with her today. She's led global marketing teams, like from literally, from startup to multi-billion-dollar corps. She's been featured on all types of podcasts and like recently on the Marketing Journey. She is a seasoned marketing executive, a strong track record of innovation, creativity, accelerating growth, working with leading tech companies. And she is known for really building enduring customer-centric brands and driving results-focused marketing programs. But also delivering rewarding customer experiences and partner experiences and inspiring her team. She was at Intel, which you probably have heard of, for over 20 years. And then she was a CMO at RealWear, which is a leading provider of assisted reality wearable solutions directly prior to this role. Currently, she's CMO of Amperity, which is the leading customer data and identity platform, helping some of the world's most loved brands take control of their customer data to drive better business results. So we are super excited to welcome Megan McDonagh, who's currently CMO of Amperity. Welcome, Megan, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know how we like to roll. We like to lead with the value. So why don't you tell everybody, like, what is one of your biggest secrets to marketing success? Like, how have you been able to achieve this success in your career?
I think my secret to marketing success, it's going to sound very textbook, but I am somewhat of a classically trained marketer. I have an undergraduate business degree in marketing and an MBA in marketing. But it really is understanding, going back to basics. I like to really understand and think like my buyer. So really thinking of truly understanding who the buyer is, the buyer journey, what makes them tick, how do they behave, what are their pain points and passions, how can I break through, to them, what channels do they engage with, what kind of content are they engaging in? This is constantly changing and evolving through time. And so really understanding that is important. And I find that if you don't understand who your customer is, and who you're talking to really well, then it's just going to affect everything down the line. So it's super basic, but I'm kind of a back to basics kind of person, and like making sure we get the fundamentals right is really important, because then all the creative things we think of downstream will all be kind of generated from that, really understanding that buyer really well.
Hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours, even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision. Yeah. And people forget about the basics because it's a noisy world that we live in.
It really is. And, I think people try to go for, sometimes can get a little bit distracted by stunts or like, trying to do something really, really kind of creative and different. But again, if the target audience that they're talking to aren't going to relate to it very well, it's not going to be as effective, even though it might, be super, super fun and creative. It's just not, from a business perspective, it's not going to be as impactful as it could be, is if it's all born or derived from really understanding that customer really well. So that's whenever I manage marketing teams, that's always the first fundamental question that we have to get right. And even when I in my current role, where it's like we have to understand that buyer's journey and what people go through as they're evaluating a product that I work on, and how can we impact that journey and make it easier for them as they're going through it.
Yeah, so I want to, of course, talk about Amperity soon, but I also want to tap into some of your previous experiences. Like, how has this concept of understanding the customer, how have you done that first and foremost? Like, how have you learned that either at Amperity or at some of your previous roles? And then how have you put that into play? Like, how have you actually put those learnings into motion?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've approached it in two different ways at the different companies. When you're at a company, you mentioned that I worked at Intel for 20 years. I mean, we had large market research teams that paired up, hand in hand with the marketing team that were really in charge of understanding the persona and giving us insights. And we did a lot of both first party and third party research. We did a lot of focus groups. We did a lot of questionnaires and sampling of kind of what makes the customer tick. We did a lot of segmentation, understanding different behaviors, and really getting to the root of who we're targeting. But we revised this. We actually work with several research companies and people that had PhDs in understanding human behavior to really get down to what's motivating. So that is a resource of a really large company can do that. But when I've been at startups, it's like, okay, how are we going to understand the customer journey? But we don't have large teams or large budgets to go and do this. So at both companies, both startups that I've been at, we've really tapped into our customer advisory board, where we've interviewed kind of our best and interested customers, just to engage them on what got you to buy our product, and let's go back a little bit in time, or what was the problem you started with, and how did you research, and what did you read, and what sources do you trust, and what made you decide us, and what messaging was impactful, all of that stuff. We kind of sat down.
Those are brilliant questions. So could you run that back real quick? It was like let's go back in time.
Let's go back in time and understand what problem were you experiencing, right? Like what problem did you realize that you had that you needed to solve? And then what was the first thing you did? What was your pain? And then what was the first thing you did to actually figure out how to solve that?
What did you do? So it's like what you feel, what you do.
What did you do? Where did you?
You said, what did you read at some point?
Yeah, what sources do you trust, right? Where did you go for information? How did you validate that information? And then what were you choosing between? And how did you make sure that this was the right solution for you? What was your testing process, and or your kind of evaluation process? And then what got you to, choose the brand, either company that I was at, which got you to choose it? And now that we also were then able to say, okay, now that you've been our customer for X amount of time, did we live up to what we communicated in your journey, right? Did the messaging and our what we promised that we did it live up to it? And now that what we're doing to help your company, would you actually advise us to change any of those messages, right? It's a really good way of testing, like, if knowing what you know now that you're a customer and you've worked with us for X amount of time, and we're jointly driving value together, would you give us any advice? Like, if you were to advise me on what messaging evolution I should look at, what would that be? Because these guys are using our product firsthand, right? And so it's a really good way to actually get feedback and build a really good trust with your customers and your clients. These are, I mean, we build long-term clients because we sign usually like, a 3-year deal, because what we're helping customers do and unifying all of their sources of customer data, it takes some time to pull it all together and to unify it and get it hydrating and enriching all the downstream platforms. So we want to build really good long-term relationships with our customers, and we want feedback from them on constantly on ways that we can improve. So it's a really good way to kind of open up that dialogue, and for the marketing team to be able to say, oh wow, we actually ended up building a journey from probably 12 to 15 customers that we interviewed, different types of personas, different types of companies, just so we made sure we didn't get, we weren't too biased into one way of thinking.
Yeah.
And then we were able to kind of put together a typical buyer's journey. And then once that was done, we're able to kind of evaluate, well, what are we doing compared to what does that buyer's journey look like that our customers have told us, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's not 100% scientific if you look at from a market research perspective, but it's pretty directionally accurate in how people evaluate at least the products that we're selling in each of those different examples that I told you.
Well, I think that was the clip. So the clip, the value bomb clip, I think we have it back there, which is, if I were to summarize it, I would say basically to interview your customer advisory boards, interview your best customers, and the question set that you provided just now on the fly, I think is like a masterclass. It's like, let's go back in time, Mr. Customer. So this is for customers that have already chosen you.
Yes.
Like, let's go back in time. What did you read? Like, what were your sources of information? And which sources of information did you trust? How'd you validate those sources? What different things were you choosing between? And sometimes the choices, one of them is just the status quo, to do nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then uh how did you validate ultimately what you chose? What was your process? How did you choose it? And then really, I think the nice twist that you added there was, hey, now that you've been a customer for X amount of time, how did we live up to that? Because now
Yeah.
you're transitioning from, the market research role to almost like customer success, or like, because most of the customers probably in your case would be like, yeah, you guys are doing great. But anything that they say there would be invaluable
Yep.
feedback for the customer success team. And
Yeah.
then the other big twist that you added, which I really appreciated, was uh, how would you advise us? So now looking at this messaging, and I'm envisioning you're like sharing your screen at this point, and showing them your landing pages or your campaigns. Like, how would you advise us on this messaging based on this journey? So I think that,
We literally did that in a customer advisory board a month or so ago, and it was we trust what our customers say, and they actually give us really honest and good feedback, because what we're doing is not perfect; it's evolving over time, and so it's really good to get that feedback. And we also asked them what would have been helpful in the journey that we didn't provide, that maybe you wish that you knew, right? As you're evaluating the solution, for how to solve this problem. And so it helps us think about, different types of messaging or content or engagement that we should have, that we should put in place for future customers. And so I think it's a really good advisory board of real people who are who have gone through that journey.
yeah,
So
and that's something, I mean, so, at Intel, obviously you had a big customer research team and these different companies you were working with that would help you do this. But even for a startup, like, that's within reach for a startup.
for
Like, you
sure.
can just
I mean,
simply call, assuming that you have some customers, right, that are signing up.
yeah,
You can just simply call them at some point and ask them that exact same question set, which, in a nutshell is like past, like tell me about, like, let's go back in time. Tell me about the pain that led up to this, what you did, what you searched specifically, like what websites you read and what,
What kind
sources
of
of
content
information
did you
you had.
engage with that was really helpful, right? Like that's always because that's what my team does. We build, we're building educational content that's going to help our prospects understand how we can help solve their problems. We want to make sure not just like how many downloads did we get, like some of the digital feedback we get. It's really nice to, if we you interview your customers and no one says that they looked at any of your content, you're like, wow, is that the most effective? Are we using the most effective channels? How could we improve that? It just kind of, you do get it's easy to get a digital feedback. Like this is the clicks and the downloads and some of that stuff, but it's really nice to get human feedback on this was helpful for me, this was not helpful. And so it helps us kind of think through what do we need to do differently and how do we keep improving and kind of innovating on the ways that we're communicating to our prospects.
Yeah, 100%. So there's definitely some good bites in there. One other little value piece that I'll add, for the smaller companies in the room that might not be able to afford, well, anybody can afford calling their customers and
Yeah,
just like interviewing them. And that's really
and
where
business
the
customers
value
are
is.
really great. They're really excited about it, right? They like to get help. They like to when people ask them, what's your feedback and what's your perspective? And there are, at least the customers we have are very honest about this is working really well. This is where I need help. And it's great. It's such a good dialogue, especially for a growing startup to listen to our customers and understand how we can continue to help them.
Yeah,
So I think they help us. It's a win-win, I think.
I think so too. So how do you balance? So you've worked at large companies and small companies. At a small company, it just like makes total sense. Like call the customer and ask them questions. At a large company, it's like, hey, you're the CMO. Like you can't realistically call every single customer. How do you balance those two things? Like how do you sort of keep the good stuff about the small company vibe, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
but
I do
also
think,
working at a larger company?
yeah, I mean, I do think at a larger company, you still have the opportunity to talk to some customers, right? Like just take a segment or a subset, or maybe there's a handful of customers. I actually think that the more that the marketing team engages with customers, the more we learn, right? And so how and even at a very large company, and when I was at Intel, our CMO would talk to our customers quite a bit. So for example, I worked on a very well-known program called Intel Inside, right? So we ran the largest co-op marketing program in the world. It was about $1 billion in advertising, uh, impact that went into the market. And so we'd work with obviously our largest OEM customers like a Dell or a Lenovo or HP. And our CMO would meet with HP and Lenovo and Dell, et cetera, and understand like, what are we doing well? What do we need to think about? How do we improve? Like you have to, they cannot be out of touch with what the customers are really interested in. Otherwise, I feel like they're not going to know how to direct their teams. And so at least when I was at Intel, the CMO would be very, ears to the ground with what the customer feedback was. And they check in on like a quarterly basis and have kind of a QBR review on kind of how are we doing? What can we do better? How can we jointly go drive? We were trying to sell PCs, right? And so how do we jointly go and do whatever we were trying to accomplish in the market at that particular time.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of really good feedback. So it's really important to stay close to your customers, even. And so at my current company, we've been talking about ways that the marketing team can kind of keep engaged with our customers, because we build the first call deck, we build a lot of content that the sales team uses, and we can't do it in isolation of not understanding what the customer feedback is. So we find opportunities to still engage with our customers, whether it's with the customer advisory board or we sit in on some prospect calls and we look at gong feedback and how are these messages resonating, and we're really trying to keep our ears to the ground to make sure that we're innovating and telling the right story.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a great piece of advice. And we were talking about going back to basics. And there's some people that are listening to this that might be like, "Oh, that's basic stuff. Like we all do that." But we don't all do that. Like CMOs get busy, their calendars get crowded. I can only imagine your calendar, right? But if you're listening to this right now, anybody, and you are like looking for a takeaway, I think that's a brilliant takeaway is basically just put time on your calendar, call your best clients, your best customers, especially the most recent ones, and interview them about their journey. Like
Yep.
it is
You'll
simple,
learn a lot.
but
You will learn a lot, and I think they will value you taking the time that you care about what they think and that you really want to know how you can constantly evolve because they are your, with their feedback. And so
yeah.
it,
I would
you will
estimate
learn a lot.
that like only 50% of CMOs do that on a regular basis, if that. That'd be my
Yeah,
best
I
estimate.
don't know what the stat is, but all I know is every time we talk to customers, we learn a ton, and
Yeah.
we never regret spending time listening. Putting your listening hat on and just understanding and figuring out how can you improve it, how can you improve the experience for the future prospects. But then you just learn a lot about things that we can do as we engage and we manage partner relationships that our client success team drives. But marketing helps them with content too, and so it's always a win-win.
Yep. Yeah. And another tidbit of good advice that I've had in regards to this is like your successful customers, the customers that are doing great on your platform, to like we all write up case studies, right? And case studies are good, but to tell those stories and to do them sort of in an ungated fashion or maybe even on LinkedIn and to do them like in concert with the client themselves, so like they know that you're publishing these things, like that can be some really high impact content.
It really can. And, we run an annual conference called Amplify, where we bring all our customers together as well as our prospects, and we talk about not only things that are going on with Amperity, our product, new product features or new product deliverables, but we also talk about what's going on in the market with customer data and what are the challenges that marketing is facing. We ran our last one in May, and my team did an amazing job pulling together all of the content and pulling together this day of impactful conversation and panels. And we had more of our customers wanting to join us on stage to tell their story than we even had room for, which is
Wow.
it's an amazing thing, because our team creates really impactful conferences that people learn from. And so we were, the good thing is we had a great day. We had a lot of really good sharing. We had great feedback from our all the panels and different topics that we had. We'll try to get everybody on stage at some point, but there were a few that we couldn't quite fit into all of the panels. But we'll figure out how to get them on in other ways. But then we were able to take that content and from recordings from that conference and use it in our social media and in other places. Even our BDR and sales team are able to send prospects like, hey, hear it from, XYZ customer
Wow.
who has solved this problem and, shared their learnings on stage with us. So
That's huge.
that was, and that's still our best performing content this fall, because people love to hear a validation of other customers' experience. It's not just marketing hype, it's actual real real customers telling our story through their lens,
Yeah.
which is incredible. It's very powerful. And
That's
so
that's powerful, yeah, on many levels. Because if I tell you about how great I am, like you may or may not believe me, but if somebody else tells you about how great I am, so that's
exactly.
powerful psychologically on that level, but it's also powerful that, you could just produce this level of an event where you literally had more volunteers to come up on stage than you had time to do it. That
We
means you
did.
had more customer success stories than, you literally had time to tell,
Yep.
which means that you guys are definitely doing something right. So golf claps all around for the
I
team
mean,
on that.
we're only as successful as the customers we have and the value that we bring them. And so if they're willing to tell that value and share that value with others, but that's amazing. And we also had a lot of great industry leaders that wanted to kind of share their perspective and point of views. And so that was great. And so we're working on our conference for next year, and what we want to talk about and how we bring in the right level of content and opportunities for our customers to participate. And so it's fun. It's fun to figure out how we put that together again. Um,
Brilliant. All right. So tell us about Amperity. I mean, I think that, some listeners are certainly familiar with the company and familiar with the concept of customer data platforms, but there's a lot of confusion in the market, around CDPs. It's like, is it the same as CRM? Is it the same as a data warehouse, like, or data lake? Like, what's the deal? So tell us a little bit about Amperity and why you decided to join, because I'm sure you could have, gone almost anywhere.
Sure, yeah. So I think you gave us a good introduction. So we are uh, part of the consumer data platform category, but we like to say that we are the platform for customer data, which is more than just a play on words, but we are basically the kind of central infrastructure platform for customer data inside of a brand's tech stack or MarTech stack, right? So we help large consumer brands in all different categories. I don't know, retail, QSR, sports leagues, financial services,
Yeah,
uh,
Planet Fitness,
yeah,
Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, like these are,
travel and hospitality. We have so lots of really big brands. We help them, pull together all of their different streams of customer data, unify it, and stitch it together inside of our platform, build a really rich, robust customer 360 unified view of their customer. So they can use that unified customer view to not only understand who their customers are and understand trends and understand things like what's my lifetime value around these customers, and what is my churn rate, and how do I build lookalike models based on the best customers that I have so I can acquire more customers. So basically, you can take that great unified customer view, and then you can basically enrich or hydrate or power all your downstream marketing tools, such as your SMS or email platform or your marketing cloud or your paid media, right? We have connectors directly into probably 80 to 90% of the paid media availability, with lots of Google and TikTok and Meta, and Amazon and the Trade Desk, et cetera. So which is pretty amazing. So it's kind of an end-to-end CDP.
so if you're Wyndham Hotels, and you have hotels all across the country, and you want to run a promo, say in North Carolina,
Mhm.
for those events, doing that would be quite difficult if you were just running on Google Analytics or, whatever, Adobe even would be quite difficult. Uh,
Yeah, so
Especially if you wanted to do it to the segment in North Carolina that was like the higher spending segment, like the one that did the deluxe rooms or the ones that used the mini bar, for instance, right?
exactly. So, for an example, like a Wyndham or a hotel chain, most of them have, a lot of them have different levels, right? You have your brand that's your premium brand, and you have your mid-tier brand, and maybe you have your budget brand. And so really being able to segment who's staying at what, and how do I get them to come up to the next tier, and how do I get them to extend their stay from 1 night to 5 nights, and how do I, if I have a new hotel, like who wants to come to, to the new hotels, and stay at a different, or they like certain experiences, or they like certain accommodations, or, how do I look at the, multi-state area to make sure everybody understands, to advertise for, for coming to my hotel, and, understanding behavior, and understanding, you know, uh, using predictive analytics to figure out who has stayed at these types of hotels before, what's their profile, and then how do I create campaigns to audience that look similar to them to try to get them to come and stay at my hotel. I'm just giving examples of all different things that, once you understand your data set, and really understand all your customer attributes and can segment them in really interesting ways, it really helps you figure out all the promotional opportunities that you have. But another good thing that we do is, because we unify all your different sources of data. For example, and this could apply to any brand, you could run a campaign and understand the cause and effect. So say that you ran a campaign, to a certain audience, trying to get them, you have a new product in your retail store. Let's just say you ran a campaign on that, and who got that campaign and interacted with it, and then you can tie it to who actually went in the store, either in the store or online, and transacted. So it's actually that closed loop feedback that you're getting, which is very important for many brands. When I was a marketer at Intel and ran really large budgets, really talking about the ROI of the impact that we made was very hard, because we didn't know, I ran this ad, and did somebody actually go and buy a PC with the product I was advertising in it? It was a little bit of there was sometimes correlation that we could get, but you couldn't get the exact like cause and effect of that advertising. And so because we pulled together the transactional data, you get that holistic view, and that closed loop. And that's why a lot of, especially retail customers, that's why they love having access to this type of data, because they know, if I advertise a new type of product, and I know exactly who's going to come to the store, or QSR, if we advertise a food feature, for example, and I advertise it to my loyalty group, I know exactly who goes in and actually transacted and came in and bought that particular food product, as an example, right? So that's really good feedback for them to say, oh, that worked, or maybe that didn't work, and we need to try something new. And so it's really helpful for marketers to be able to understand that the investments they're making are actually paying off, or are they not, and do they need to adjust it in a different way?
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, I can see, just on your guys' website, in the case of Wyndham, so 90% of their budget was deployed against Amperity audiences within a month. So that points to like quick to deploy. 35% less media costs, 60% increase in conversion. So like a $2.5 million delta, basically right there. And I imagine that's in a shorter, relatively short period of time.
Yes, and I mean, we have lots of examples of those types of case studies on the impact, especially around paid media, where we've driven incredible return on ad spend. But understanding your customers better, and also stitching together customers. I mean, most brands probably have, they probably like some of my favorite brands probably think there's 5 or 6 Megan McDonaghs that are at their company, because I gotten married over time, I've moved addresses, I've probably used different emails, because maybe there's a promotion code you can get, like free shipping at the holidays, or a discount code. And so, people sign up for different things. And so they think there's 5 of me, when really there's only 1 of me. And so we help brands unify these profiles. So they're like, oh, there's one Megan, McDonagh, and she lives at this address. This is her most recent, and these are her 5 email addresses that she uses. So when a brand goes to find me on, let's say, Instagram, they say these are the 5 email addresses that we know for Megan, and the matches are really high because they know what to match against. But if you send over me with maybe a different address than what I signed up for Instagram for, then your match rate's going to be really low. And so we help brands increase their match rates. We've seen some of our customers, we've seen match rates on a lot of the ad platforms that, in the 90%. And the average match rate with brands is I think between 40 and 60.
Yeah.
And so if you can't match to your audience, that means you have a smaller reach.
Totally.
And so we help customers get a bigger reach. And because they've unified their profiles and they know that there's only one Megan, they're not wasting advertising and trying to hit me in 5 different places, because they know only to hit me. I'm only one person. I'm not 5 different people.
Right.
So not only does it more efficient and cost effective, it's also a better experience for me. Because I mean, think about all those brands that you have that where they think that there's multiples of you, and you're like, I just got 5 emails from them, and it's annoying because they don't know who I am, and they'll send you ads for stuff that you've already bought. Or I think the most irritating is when you sign up for something using a discount code, and then all of a sudden you get a better coupon code right after you bought, and you're like, how does that happen? That's a terrible brand experience, because you're annoyed because you just bought something, and then the brand gives you a deeper discount code after you've already bought, and it just does not create a very good customer experience. And so brands are always looking at ways that they can, looking to improve their customer experience. And so really help them figure out, if you know your customer really well, you're going to know, what have they bought? What are they likely to buy? And not sending them things that maybe they've already bought, right? Like you hate to get an email on Monday morning of the things that you bought over the weekend. You're like, really know me as a customer, right?
Yeah.
And think about all those experiences. You probably had those experiences where you're like, I can't believe the brand did that to me.
Yeah. I'm like, I've already purchased this product, brand. Like, stop showing me your remarketing ads.
Exactly. And so
that's a huge issue.
That's what we really help brands do. And at the end of the day, all brands want to have great customer experiences. They want their customers to have great experience with their brand, because that creates brand loyalty and brand stickiness. But when you don't know your customer, most likely you could be giving them a not an great experience, because people think about, wait, you're treating your VIPs like you don't know them, right? Some of your best customers have the messiest data, because they're very loyal to your brand, and they've given you information over time, and you just haven't evolved, and you haven't evolved with their information. And so it's to avoid customer churn and increase experiences, it's really great. It's really important to understand who your customer is.
Totally. Yeah. And unifying those 5 different profiles is huge. Like,
it is.
Because then, I mean, yeah, it's huge on many levels, and we could go into that. I want to be sensitive to your time. I know that you've got a stop here coming, but what are your challenges?
A very passionate product of mine, right? Like,
I know.
Talked about a very passionate initiative, and why I came to Amperity, because we have solved the even before I came, the company was founded by solving the hardest problem in customer data. They built an AI and ML engine that can unify profiles in a unique way, that finds all the commonalities that people have in the different email addresses and names and addresses and et cetera that they have. And so that is one of the reasons why I came to the company, because we've already solved that. And so it's like, it's just a matter of how do we communicate that to the biggest brands in the world that are going to have such a better experience if they can unify those profiles and really build a really good unified customer data foundation, it can be kind of the center of that stack. So going back to the question that you asked me before, that's really why I came to Amperity, and it's what makes us all excited to get out of bed every day and to work with customers to bring them value. And it's so fun to see, like, some of the case studies that you pointed out, where brands are realizing these great results because they're starting with a really robust, clean data foundation.
Yeah.
And that same foundation can hydrate lots of different things within their stack. It can even your customer service experience can be better. Because imagine when you call a customer, you call about something, something you ordered, and if the customer service answers and says, "Oh, hello, I see that you ordered, 2 shirts and you returned one. Your refund's going to be sent to you in X days. And it sounds like you are still trying to figure out what size you are within our company. Why don't I direct you to a product specialist who can help you?" That's a great experience versus a lot of the ones you get. They're like, "What's your order number? I can't find it. I don't know how to help you. Hold on a second. Let me transfer you." You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just amazing. They practically read your mind and answer your question. You're like, "Gosh, that brand knows me. I just feel you feel much more loyal to that brand when they do that versus when you don't. Usually customer support is not always a great experience, but knowing your customer helps it actually be an asset for you as a company. So anyway,
I totally get it. I
yeah.
totally get it. So instead of like, "Hey, what's your order number?" It's like, "Hey, Mr. Mechanic, I see that you've done blah, 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 and you might be interested in blah, blah, blah."
Yeah, exactly. It's much more of a positive experience for your customer. So
I am curious if we had one more minute, just
sure.
like what your challenges are, because it sounds like you guys are killing it on a lot of levels. But what are you challenged with? Is it like what you were alluding to, like how do we get brands to understand that we have this sort of
Yeah.
better mousetrap to unify these different profiles?
Yeah, I think the challenges were in a very complex category with lots of different players that do lots of different things. And so if I was a brand and I was trying to figure out how to solve these problems, it's really hard to navigate through that and understand exactly what they need to do. And so we've been, really trying to differentiate exactly that problem the hardest problem that we have solved, right? And we feel like we're unique in the way we've solved it.
Yeah.
Um, and so trying to break through and communicate why that's so important. And that's what kind of the back to basics that I talked to you about. It's like solve the fundamental, identity and customer attribute, unification problem, build that unified customer foundation. Once you do that, then everything downstream is going to be so much easier. But if
Yeah.
you're starting, if your audiences sit in 5 different platforms, like you have an audience that sits in your email platform and your SMS platform and all these different places, how are you truly understanding how to impact your customers, right? And so we're trying to get, we're really trying to get customers to understand, owning your own database and getting it, building this great foundation is just going to be so smart for all of the future marketing challenges that marketing is facing. Because as we all know, the third party cookie is slowly evaporating, and
Yeah.
if Google follows what they've announced, starting in Q1, it's going to really start. It's already started. The signals have started to degrade already, but in Q1, as they start, pulling down the cookie or you're not be able to track or see those signals. It's really important for brands to get ahead of the curve and start building a first party data foundation. So at some point you're no longer going to be able to rent your audiences from your either a third party aggregator or from your agency, right?
Right.
And so take control of your own destiny, right?
Yeah.
Build your first party customer data so you can actually create all these really smart interactions with your customers. So that's really communicating that and that sense of urgency. I kind of think about it like what happened with GDPR or Y2K. It's like, people, they sometimes wait and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then you're like, we really have to figure it out. And we're getting close to that. We really need to figure it out phase, right?
Yeah.
Because if they don't, then they could potentially be in a world of hurt if they're not prepared. And so, we like to tell brands that they're kind of too late, but we still can help them, figure out their first party data strategy, get get it right, and start building them towards really owning their own database versus
Yeah.
renting it, right? We're kind of moving away from the era of renting your audiences.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and so,
that, well, that can be a very powerful thing, obviously, in terms of remarketing or in terms of marketing to people that you already know. But the value of it, so I guess when you rent third-party audiences right now, it's usually to go after audiences with certain characteristics, like, high income household in Atlanta, whatever it is.
yeah,
But when you have your own data sets and they're unified properly and enriched with some of those characteristics, then you can build lookalike models.
you can. And then you can say, build a lookalike model for everyone that, buys new product offerings, that responds really well to new products on the market. And so it can build an audience based on that. You can use that to go and, reach out to your different ad platforms and say, find me customers that look exactly like this. Or
Yeah.
you find me customers that look exactly like the buyers of this type of product, or whatever it is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do based on that. You can kind
Yeah.
of predict the type of people, even within your own database, of saying, if I know that my typical customer or you look at customers that bought a certain product, and you look at their characteristics and you say, how does that match in my own database to customers from an attribute perspective, but maybe haven't bought yet? It's almost predicting, who will also be, fans or interested in this type of product too. So it's both lookalike and it's both for retention and for acquisition.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is huge and powerful. And I think has some implications in B2B too. Like it's
Yeah.
not necessarily just for, the Wyndham hotels of the world that have millions of records. Like I think
Right.
this absolutely applies in the B2B world as well.
Exactly. Anything that has a customer data PII information that needs to be, and lots of different data in different places. That's what a lot of especially large companies have. The larger the company, the messier the data, just naturally, right?
Yeah.
Big data sets, billions and billions of records, probably trillions at some companies, right? But if it's all siloed in different places within the company, how do you truly understand your customer, and how do you, if you're in a big, if you're in a large company that has multiple products, how do you sell across those products? Like you had group A that bought company, or that bought product A, and then you have a group that bought product B, but they're not in the same databases. So how do you cross sell? There's just a lot of opportunity to kind of, again, once you learn who your customers, then who your customers are, you really understand how you can cross sell and upsell with them on other
Yeah.
products or company. So
Huge opportunity, huge opportunity. And I think you guys are at the early phases, because a lot of brands have this problem and I think don't even know it yet.
yeah, they don't. And a
Um,
lot of them sadly have what they think is a CDP, but they still haven't solved the biggest problem. And so they get confused. They're like, well, I have a CDP, but I'm still having this problem. So because companies, or brands within our category have different capabilities, and so we just happen to be an end-to-end CDP that starts with that really important foundation building, and then helps brands activate that data downstream. And so if you
gotcha.
don't start with the foundation, it's very hard to get the activation right.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
today. This has been a lot of fun and has inspired me on our own data stack to get a little bit hydrated, as you say, and a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah. Let me know how we can help you.
more specific there. But we also have a bunch of clients. We have a
Yeah.
lot of clients that could probably use help in this area. And I think many of them fall into the category of, you know, they just don't really know what they don't know. And,
Yep.
they may think that 50% match rates are like decent, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
for everybody listening here today, if you learned anything today or if you enjoyed this, I would appreciate it if you share it with a colleague or a friend. Give us a 5-star review wherever you get your pods. Megan, I would love to sit here and talk with you for another hour, but I know that you have
It's
other
been really
stuff
fun.
on your schedule. But any parting words, or if people want to learn more about you or Amperity, like, would you direct them somewhere specific?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Amperity.com has lots and lots of information and education around how we deliver business value and solve pain points for the marketer, for the IT group, and different verticals. Come look at our case studies and proof points, not just what we're saying, but what are our customers saying. Check it out. And if you're not getting, if you still have questions, there's a contact sales button, but you can kind of get more information or watch one of our demos. So, yeah, we would love to engage.
Yeah, and that's amparity.com. Amp like amplify, and then parity like prosperity.
Yes,
Amperity.com.
AMPERITY.com, Amperity.
But it looks like an awesome product. It looks like you guys are absolutely killing it. So congratulations. Uh, and
Appreciate it.
and thank you for inspiring us all to take a double click or a second look at our data stack.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. This has been a really fun conversation.
Cool. I appreciate it. Come back again sometime.
I will.
All right. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenue-drivencmo.com. That's revenue-drivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client, if you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenue-drivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenue-drivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.